people with their breakups, relationships, and situationships. And today we're going to get into what's the best thing to do when you miss your ex, or when you just broke up, or when you want to get back together. It applies for all those things. This is a really good exercise and a really good thing to consider for you. A lot of times when you're in the middle of the breakup, you kind of think, okay, I miss them. Okay, I really want them back. You get emotional, but you really don't dive into why. You don't dive into how'd you end up in this situation in the first place. And the best way to go about that is good questions that you answer for you. So that's what I'm going to get into today. I actually am working on an assessment that people can take post-breakup with a scale and really get some feedback on your unique situation. Because what happens right now, it's been happening a lot. There's so much information out there on YouTube, websites, blogs, what have you, that people are just getting a lot of general information and trying to apply it to their relationship. And when you do questions, individual questions that pertain to you, you can get more of a unique and tailored outlook on what's going on. Okay. And if you were going to a therapist or a coach, these would be good questions that you discussed with them, where you answered them for them. And you could even go over these questions with a friend. And so in this particular episode, I would highly recommend that you do get these questions down and use them for yourself. Are rebounds healthy? I am. Are rebounds healthy? I mean, that's a broad, general question. So what I would answer to that, if you've come across my work or come across my channel, I've been doing this for over 5 years, it depends on the rebound. So what's the situation? Not all rebounds are the same. So my knee-jerk reaction would be rebounds aren't healthy. To counter that, to give you a nuance to that, this is what I would tell you. Sometimes, depending on the type of breakup you're in, the circumstances, this is why I tell you to write your story out so I know the specifics of what's going on. It's not just as simple to say all rebounds are the same. But what I've noticed is people that really have a problem with their ex being in a rebound relationship is they're in a bad place. They don't have a lot of options post-breakup. They're still heartbroken, and then this person can just go into a new relationship. Well, they're single, they're a free agent, they have a right. What I would say to that is if you're with someone that has a couple things, you break up and they're in an environment at work or with their friends or people that they hang out with where they meet more people that are single. So they're going to have more opportunity to meet someone else. Number two, outside of this relationship as an individual, they got their shit together. They got a good job. They've got a little bit of money. They don't have a lot of issues outside the relationship. They're good looking. They take care of their body, right? These people rebound quicker because they have more options, because there's going to be more people approaching them right out the gate. And so the person on the other end of that's like, oh, they're just in a rebound. And that's where it's unique. Now, if someone goes into a rebound that is extremely toxic and they're just looking to fill a void and not be lonely, well, then that's not healthy. My ex left me pregnant, moved on to another female a month later. Now they are going on 3 months. They seem happy. My son was just born 3 days ago. For first and foremost, congratulations on your son. That's a blessing. In that particular case, it doesn't sound like a healthy move if he pivoted out of a relationship where you just had a kid and he's just in a new one, but I would need to know more details to the situation. That's a unique situation. That's why go to writemac.com, we'll book a session. And it might be someone that talked to me earlier today that's sending this now, but not all rebounds are the same. And you got to make sense of it on your own. Okay. You got to make sense of it on your own. And when you're having a kid and you just had a kid, this is extremely sensitive time for you. So it's very unique. So it's probably not going to feel good any way you dice it. But the short answer, can rebounds work out sometimes? Sometimes. How you doing, Justin Brown? All right, let's get into a little bit deeper on what I was going to talk about today. If you are new to the live stream or you've never been one before, you can post comments, questions, whatever you want. I do respond to them. I do interact. And so I'm going to get into the heart of what I want to talk about today, but I will come back to the comments and questions. Okay. So, number one, ask yourself good questions on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. I'm going to explain that a little deeper. But what I mean by that is, for example, if you have a question like on a scale of 1 to 5, and like I said, you can say 1 to 10, with 5 being the highest, how much do you believe your partner is still physically attracted to you? Okay. So the reason why you want to do a scale is it's a little bit different than just saying yes or no. So that'd be like a question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much would you say that the problem or problems that caused your breakup have been fixed already, with 5 being the highest? So now you can create a score, right? I'm going to get back into those questions in a moment and come back to that, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. And a lot of times what I tell people, the base questions to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I trust my partner? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I feel connection and chemistry? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's our attraction? Okay, those are the bases. I'm going to go through 20 questions that I'm working on an assessment that I'm building right now that I'm going to use, but I wanted to talk to people in the live stream about this. And you could pick some of these questions yourself, but these are really good questions. And even if you just miss your ex, you want your ex back, these would be good questions for you to answer for yourself to just get some quick clarity. Okay. Number 2, be honest in your answers. The best way to be honest in your answers when you ask questions, it's usually the knee-jerk first thing you respond with. That's usually your truth, especially on a 1 to 5 scale. So if you're like, how much do you trust them on a scale of 1 to 5? And you're like, the longer someone thinks, I know that they're trying to come up with a different answer than the first answer. Because when you get asked a question like that, how much do you trust someone on a scale of 1 to 10? Usually they're like 7, 8, 9. And then you're like, oh, 7. Oh, maybe it's 9. Go with the first one. Okay. You with me? Now, number 3, start with writing it out. What I'm talking about is the questions. So write out your answers to these questions, maybe journaling, maybe with some music in the background, some study music, some something that really calms you down, right? Number 4, discuss the answers with a friend, coach, or therapist. So you can go through them. It doesn't mean that the friend or therapist needs to change your answer, but sharing it with someone else opens you up to a little bit more clarity. Okay, because a lot of times what you're stuck on is, I just miss them. They did this wrong to me. You're not looking at the forest. You're just looking at one tree. You're not taking an objective overview of everything. And then when you look at those other things, it's not going to cure the worst problem, but you can have a little bit more of a case being built on why it's good that you're not together. Okay. Number 5, go back over and see where you feel uncomfortable most. So when you go through these kinds of questions, go back over them and see where you feel uncomfortable most. So let me just, like I said, there's going to be 20, I believe there's 20 questions here. And I'm going to go through those questions right now. So, number 1, and I'll explain each question and why it's pertinent. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest in trust, how much do you trust your partner or ex? However you want to classify that. Right now. Not when you first started, right now. If it's a 1, it's a 1. If it's a 2, if it's a 5, just go with that. Okay? Some people can be broken up. They're like, no, I still trust them 100%. There were other problems. This is important. If you don't trust them right now and it's a 1 or 2, it's really hard to get back together with anyone on a serious level of relationship if you're at a 1 or a 2 on trust. Just trusting someone's word, right? Trusting they're going to do what they say they're going to do. Trusting that they're not going to steal money from you. Okay. Number 2, how much do you believe your partner is still physically attracted to you? Okay. This might be harsh for some people, but on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest level of attraction. So if you feel like, no, they're still pretty attracted to me, and you can't know what they're thinking right now, but you have an idea of how it was left, right? I've been in relationships before, in my late 20s, one of my hardest breakups, the hardest breakup I went through. And I remember, like, I could tell she had lost attraction for me. We were together for four plus years, and it didn't feel nice. But if I had to answer that question, how much do you believe she's still physically attracted to you? I would have probably said a 2 or a 3. It would have been low. And sometimes that's circumstances. It doesn't mean that you just let yourself go. It means that they're checked out. They're seeing someone else. They've been flirting with some guys at work or women at work. It could be a variety of things, but you have to ask yourself, just answer that question. That is a hard one, but go with what you believe. In your particular case, it's kind of unique because you're pregnant, right? But be honest. Okay. Number 3, and it is a hard one. And that's why I'm saying, like, but it'll put things in perspective. I'm not saying that having a high level of attraction is everything about a relationship, but when you're at the breakup point, it's going to be harder to get back together when someone's not still highly attracted to you. Okay. Especially if they value traction and your partner does or does not. Number 3, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much would you say that problem or problem that caused your breakup has been fixed already? With 5 being the highest levels of problems being solved. So let me clarify that for everyone. So you had one big problem, or you had a few big problems. We're not going to talk about the petty stuff, like, oh, they didn't wash the dishes, right? It's going to be more heavy stuff, like they couldn't stop smoking weed. That's a big one these days. They let themselves go. Whatever the problem was, they lie to me all the time. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 5, the problems that caused your breakup, are they fixed already? If it's a 5, I'd be shocked, right? Most of the time, it's probably going to be a 1 or 2 because the problems don't get solved right away. But it's a good question to ask. Number 4, what was your level of good intimacy in the last 3 months of your relationship, with 5 being excellent? Okay. Now, don't be shy to answer this for yourself, right? Be honest. A lot of times post breakup, right before you break up, you're like, yeah, we haven't been hooking up quite as much. Okay. Be honest about that. Now, there's some people, they break up and they're like, 2 days ago, we had, the most incredible lovemaking I've ever had in the world. Okay. Well, then you would say in this particular case, actually, in the last 3 months of our relationship, the intimacy was still pretty good. All right. Well, then mark that on a 1 to 5. On a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel about your finances as an individual, with 5 being excellent? Now, someone's going to go, my partner wasn't with me for money. Okay. Completely possible. Well, this isn't that important to them. Completely possible. But we could all agree that your value and your self-respect, if you feel like you feel good about your finances as an individual, meaning you got a good job, or you have a trust fund, or you have good investments, or as an individual, you're okay, because that's going to make you a stronger individual post breakup, because you don't have to lean on them for money. And also, if they're going to come back to you, they don't have to feel like they're walking back into something where it's a lopsided financial relationship. It counts in a lot of cases. Okay. Doesn't mean that it's the number one thing, but when we're going through these questions, it counts. And if you would say, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about your finances as an individual? You're like, I'm a 1. well, then and then your partner was a 5, well, then that particular part of the relationship is probably one that you're missing quite a bit. Why would this be pertinent to know? Because when you miss that person so much and you're so hung up on them and they treated you really bad in the end, one of the reasons you're still subconsciously connected to them might not be the number one thing, is actually, well, I depended on them for finances. Okay. Doesn't mean but it's a question to be answered, because the individual that's really comfortable in a good place has more maneuverability, right? Number 6, on a scale of 1 to 5, does your ex have a drug or alcohol addiction? For this answer, with a 1 if the addiction is high, and a 5 if there's no addictions, because this is a positive thing if there's no addictions. Okay. And the reason this would be added, because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, they casually drink. And I always tell people, I'm not the alcoholic police. I'm not, going to judge that. But you take that into account. If they're 0, they don't do drugs or alcohol at all, then you put a 1 for this, and then you have a scoring system. This is a good mark for both of you, because this is an extra hurdle in getting back together if one of you have an addiction or an alcohol problem, even if it's not full blown, right? Number 7, on a scale of 1 to 5, how attracted do you believe your ex is to you right now, with 5 being high? Now, again, you can't read your ex's mind, but when you first broke up, you can kind of get an idea. And I'll go back to this. When I was in my late 20s, one of the worst breakups I had, the attraction was low. I could feel it. The attraction for 4 years wasn't low. But at the end, she was flirting with guys at work. She was getting a lot of attention. She changed. She was hanging out with single friends. And I could just feel it. And if I had to answer that question honestly, it was probably like a 1 or 2 in that particular breakup. And if I look back at it, that's a big deal, especially in your 20s when you don't have kids or you don't have anything else with you. Attraction's more of a big deal when there's less things tied to the relationship. It's not everything, but it's a big pillar. Number 8, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you believe? What's up, Kyle? I wanted to say masculine energy. I've been wanting to talk to you, by the way, bud. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you believe if you got back together, you'd be able to fix the problems of the relationship completely? This is actually a big question. Big question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you believe that you could get back together, you'd be able to fix the problems of the relationship completely? With 5 being able to fix all the problems. Now, you might be a positive person, you might be someone, but you have to be honest with yourself, right? You're like, you know what? If we got back together, we could fix we could fix these issues. And you should be thinking you could fix the issues that are your problem. But if you answer this question, you're like, we're never going to fix that problem with this, then put a 1 or a 2. Don't put a 5. Number 9, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much would you say the friends and family like you? With 5 being their friends and family like you very much. You use Telegram or Signal? You still use Telegram. Sorry. All right, let me get back to this. Now, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much would you say the friends and family like you? This might be a little bit difficult because maybe a friend likes you, but the mom hates you. So in that case, you might be a 3 out of a 5, right? The reality is that you're not going to get your ex back, because this comes up a lot. Oh, the mom likes me, or her friends all like me. That's not going to mean that you're going to get back together. That doesn't mean you're going to get back together, but it's a positive, right? But it's not a standalone thing. But in a group of questions like this, it's a good one to answer, because if you're going to answer a 5, like all their friends and family really like you, well, then that's a hell of a positive. Hell of a positive. Compared to a 1. A person can put things in their head to make you look bad. Absolutely. If you have a partner that's always making you the bad guy and they create arguments that are completely false or something that you're like, but you're on your back foot explaining yourself all the time, that's a form of manipulation. It's a form of controlling you. They're coming up with something, they got you, and now you're explaining yourself for something that's not true at all. That's a bad relationship to be in. It's a pattern for the way people deal with other people. And a lot of times people can go 2, 3, 4 years in those types of relationships, and all of a sudden they're like, what the hell happened? Like, they're just constantly explaining themselves. It's a form of control. And if you're an agreeable type person and you don't like to fight or argue too much, you're susceptible because you're like, oh, I know you were out cheating, and you're like, no, I wasn't. And there's nothing that substantiates that allegation, but you're answering to it. You're actually giving it weight, and now they got you. And those kind of relationships, that's a problem, right? On a scale of 1 to 5, how much does your ex value always being right? Fuck. The amount of people I've talked to where their ex, or I've talked to people that I've known that are colleagues, they're always right. But what you don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize, everything's an opinion except math. 2 + 2 is 4. We're not going to argue about that internationally. Calculators do that. Everything else is pretty much an opinion. We can get research, we can get studies. A lot of these research or studies are theories, not facts. Hypothesis, not facts. And that's okay. There's some weight to them. But when someone's giving an opinion, for example, this is a good one. Everyone thinks the music that they listen to is the best in the world, right? He's sitting here with Justin Brown and he's playing some kind of music, and I'm like, oh my God, how do you listen to this music? It's an opinion. Nobody's right or wrong. Now, you can build a case for your opinion, but you're never going to be a hundo correct. Never. It's an opinion. Most of the things that are coming out of your mouth are opinions. If you deal with someone that's always right, they don't even understand that concept. What they're running on is ego. And people with an ego like that are always right, they're actually deep down inside, they're a bit sensitive, a bit immature. Because this is a teenager, the way a teenager acts, they're always right. They don't have a lot to go on. Answer this in reverse. 1 being highest, needing to be right, and 5 being a reasonable person that doesn't have to be right about anything. And so what's the opposite of this? Someone says, like, we can agree to disagree, seek to understand, not to be understood, which is ask more questions because I don't get where you're coming from. And then one of the things I've used in my relationships over the years, friends, family, colleagues, girlfriends, I think we had a miscommunication. I think you misunderstood what I said. Let me, the way you're saying this, you misperceived what I meant by it. That wasn't my intention. Because a lot of times it's perception and interpretation that gets mixed up. And it's not just because we're speaking a different language, right? Because that would happen in a different language. If I'm speaking Spanish, you're speaking Chinese, someone else is speaking English, the interpretation of the actual words will be different. And the same thing happens with communicating in a relationship. Think about that. So how much does your ex always have to be right? Like, you get into something and you're like, oh. And one of the signs of this is when they consistently tell you what you're thinking. Well, I know this is what you do. I know you're thinking this. I know you do this, and they're wrong. That's a problem. Be thankful to be out of those relationships because that's a personality trait. That's not something you did wrong. And if you don't get out of the relationship, out of the entanglement of that, you can't realize what you were ever in. And those kind of relationships where you're with someone that's always being right and always creating those kind of situations, you actually get out of the relationship and go, oh my goodness, what a relief. You actually deal with other people that work through a problem and don't have to be right, ask questions, seek to understand, not to be understood. It's enlightening. Now, On a scale of 1 to 5, how good was your connection and chemistry? Okay. And I said was. So this is a breakup situation. Don't say in the beginning or the middle, right now. And you're like, oh, what's chemistry? Oh, what's connection? How good are your conversations? If you go to the coffee shop, you go out to dinner, if you guys, you're in bed before bed, what are you guys talking about? Are you talking about things that you like to talk about? When they give their opinion about things at work or, their everyday life, are you cringing inside by the way they're talking about things? Because you're like, wow, that's really your outlook on that? Or are you like, yeah, we vibe on a lot of things. Doesn't mean you have to vibe on everything, but we like hanging out. We like hanging out. We're like best friends. That's chemistry and connection. If your chemistry and a connection was really low at the end, it's hard to rebuild that in a day, and it might have never been there. A lot of times people will discount connection and chemistry for attraction and sex. Number 12, how much do they trust your word? So this is a little deeper than just trust. It's specifically about your word. And how much do they trust your word? So it's not about if you trust them. It's about when you tell them something, do they believe you? Now, it's extremely difficult to be in a relationship where you're telling the truth and they're saying, no, I don't believe you. It's exhausting, puts you on your back foot. And in that case, be thankful to get out of those relationships. 13, in your estimation, how much does your ex believe you are currently being the best version of yourself right now? I know that sounds a little bit like one of these self-improvement type questions, but it's a great question to ask. And maybe you don't even know what the best version of yourself is right now. Maybe you need to take some time on that. But how much does your ex believe you're currently being the best version of yourself right now? Because a lot of times, especially with women, if you're slagging or you're being lazy or you let yourself go and you're dropping in value rather than staying the same or at least elevating, it's no bueno. You're going to lose a lot of respect right there if you get lazy in that situation. And you know if you're being the best version of yourself or at least trying or making an effort towards that situation, or you just got complacent. 14, how much confidence do you have in yourself right now? Great question. Just overall. Now, some people compartmentalize. I always say that word, compartmentalize better than others. In other words, they can go to work and they could put on their uniform, they could put on their suit, and they're like, I'm not going to bring my shit to work. Work separate. I'm going to go visit my family. I'm not going to bring my shit to my family dinner. They can do that. They can have boxes. I would say most people don't do that well, but some people do it extremely well. Now, in that particular case, they can have confidence in their job, but not have confidence in their love life. Could be separate, but it all affects everything, right? So how much confidence do you have in yourself right now? And sometimes post-breakup, a lot of times it's going to be a 1 or a 2, because if the person left you or they said some ill stuff when you left, it's going to be really tough. But be honest with yourself, because if your confidence is way down, whether it's a relationship, whether you just lost your job, whether you feel overweight, whatever, be honest with yourself, because it's not a time to get back together. Because if you're feeling low about your confidence in yourself, you're going to be extremely sensitive. You're going to be defensive, and you're not going to be in a situation to have a healthy relationship. So you need to take 2 steps back and figure out where you want to go as an individual, how you want to improve that confidence. I can help you with that in a live coaching session. That's a big deal. I can't, put a magic wand and give you confidence again, but we can find out what are areas. And like I've said this many times about confidence. Okay. Confidence is something that isn't grown from being a superstar at a bunch of different things. It's usually grown from being good at like 2 or 3 different things, right? And having a character that you feel like you're doing the right thing. You have a vision moving forward. And that's where it comes from. It doesn't mean that and if you think that, well, I need to be rich, I need to be good at this, I need to be good at that, you're going too far. You're disoriented. What you want to do is, where's my confidence been lost? When was I most confident before? But if you're at a really low level of confidence in yourself right now, you're not in a position to get back together. Number 15. How much anger do they have towards you? This is a great question to ask. How much anger do they have towards you? Don't explain it on a scale of 1 to 5. And I would say this is reverse. If they have a lot of anger towards you, then you go with a 1. If there's no anger towards you, it's a positive, then it's a 5. And you know if someone's angry towards you, and anger comes from hurt. A lot of times people don't realize that. A lot of times the base fuel of anger is you hurt me. I want to hurt you. I can't believe you did this to me. If there's anger towards you post breakup, look at that as like a little moat around the castle of you getting back together. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Number 16, how much resentment and hurt are they holding against you for cheating or emotional cheating in the past? Now, someone can answer this really quick because you're like, well, I never cheated. Perfect. Well, then on a scale of 1 to 5, then you'd go 5. It's never happened. It's not even a problem. Oh, we did have one emotional cheating situation in the past that they brought up right before we broke up, where I texted emotional cheating is basically texting, no penetration, no kissing, no nothing like that. But there's been texts or emails found where you were flirting or dirty talking or, spending a little extra time talking to that person. That's emotional cheating. And people will throw that in your face. If that's being done, that's a question to answer for yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. And a lot of times it would probably be a 3, 4, or 5 if you've never done it before. But if it's evident, if it's like you cheated and that's the reason why you broke up and it's a 1, even if you get back together, if the person threw a fit about it and they were really hurt by it, which is totally their right to do, right? Even if you get back together, they're going to keep bringing that up all the time because it's a wound, right? And it also contributes to a lack of trust. On a scale of 1 to 5, do you believe they really want you back? Great question. Now, again, you could be wrong. These are questions for you as an individual to tailor some answers to your situation rather than getting general advice on YouTube to fit your situation into. When you answer these questions as an individual, you get some clarity on your situation. Understand me? Now, if we got 11 on deck, if anyone wants to go through all these questions, I will send a link out and you can come on live, no video. StreamYard allows that. No video, audio only. You can answer the questions for yourself right now and we can go through them. Do you believe they really want you back? Now, I was talking about earlier, I know breakup I had years back that was really bad. I would probably answer this as with 5 being they absolutely want you back. I'd answer this with a 1 or 2 at the time I broke. And that's clarity. You answer a question like that. Do you believe they really want you back? And you answer 1 or 2, saying no contact. I know it sounds harsh, but you know them better than anyone else. You know this relationship. Are you honest with yourself right now? In that particular case, right? If you don't know and you're not sure, then you need to answer a 3. Number 18, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you believe if you started dating again that you'd meet someone equal or higher value? With 5 being that if you started dating, you feel that you'd absolutely be able to meet someone equal or higher value. This is a great question to ask you. How much do you actually believe? And probably, 5 days after a breakup, you're like, oh my God, I would never meet someone like this again. That's all right. Now you know where you stand. You're putting this person on a pedestal. You're not taking into account the world's population of, 7 billion people. And you think this is the only one on earth that has any kind of high value to me in a monogamous relationship. A little bit dense, but at least you're clear on it, right? That's okay. On the flip side, if you're like, no, I can meet someone higher value, but like I need to lick my wounds for a little while and I just need to be alone. Okay. That means that you got some confidence and you know that you're going to be okay. The reality is, I always tell people this one, and it happens, right? Oh, I'm never going to meet one like that again. Okay. And a lot of times with your first love, you feel that way. You're right. You're 100% correct. You'll never, ever meet someone with the same fingerprints, same personality, same, same chromosomes, same, because human beings are unique individuals. We're unique in our little quirky, nuanced ways. And so when you say that, you go, yeah, you won't meet another person that's the same. But are you capable of meeting someone equal or higher value? You got to get to a point, if you're not there, like, yeah, I can. And here's the interesting thing. When you accept, yeah, I'm not going to meet another one like them because they're unique, rather than that's a negative. That's just a reality. But the reality is I could meet someone equal or higher value. Doesn't mean you got to go out dating right away or anything like that. But do you believe that? If you don't believe that yet, book a live coaching session. Let's get you on deck. Can't do it in a day, but let's redirect the ship. A lot of times that's what it is, folks. And this is what, when you do coaching and you've done this for a while, 2-3 years later, a year and a half later, someone's like, oh man, I've changed. Got a client right now. We've done once a week coaching for a year. Started out about the breakup. Then we done, other things that were limited beliefs. We've done some hypnosis, which is something else I do. We've done some EFT, cleaned up some of his stuff. He's like, I'm a different person. Now, if we would have just did a 1 week or something like that, yeah, we helped out with the breakup. But like, if you really want to go all in, you got to commit to it. And if you're at a point where you're like, I can't meet someone equal or higher value, I can't see that. Sign up for some coaching, get to work on yourself, because everyone can. And when I say equal or higher value, that's to you. That's your value tree. I'm not going to tell you what's equal or higher value. But when you get out in the world and you think about it, you're like, I always can meet equal or higher value. I always can meet someone like that. I still can hurt. I could still be in a moment of post-breakup where I'm worried about things. But if I've met one person that's of high value, I can meet another one. If I fell in love once, I can do it again. Can't do it in a day. 19 on a scale of 1 to 5. How much do you believe that if you got back together, things would work out long term? Great fucking question. You got to answer this honestly, with 5 absolutely being true. Now, you might be jaded if you're one of those people that's like, you want to believe what you want to believe and you don't believe in reality. But that's why I like people to answer this on their own. Be honest. Right now, where you're at in the breakup, do you believe you got back together, things will work out long term? Now, I've had clients before. They're like, oh, we do 2 hours of coaching. We go through everything. And I'm happy to do that. We go through some rabbit holes. We go into this. We go into that. And at the very end, it's like, do you think they're going to come back? I just want to ask you, what do you think? Do you think they're going to come back? A lot of times, I'll give my assessment. I'll be like, it's 50-50. Yeah, sometimes I'll be like, no, this one will probably come back. But it doesn't mean you're going to be together long term. And if you're in your 20s and I would even say 26 or lower, 26 to 20, the odds are against you. I know that doesn't sound positive, but it's just that right now, in my assessment of doing this for a long time, there's so many distractions for work, for buying things, that when someone gets out of a relationship, they usually go on a dating app. They usually start going into other directions. They don't really work on the situation, but also younger people don't have the same long-term morals and sticking to it. And that's okay. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just what's happening. It's the reality of it. But usually I'd say that when you get back together, are you getting back together because you're lonely and you miss them? Or you really believe like, this is the one, we can make this work. We can be together for the rest of the time. We're a match. Because a lot of times the people I talk to, not always, it's like, yeah, you're probably going to break up again. Like, you can get back together because you got attraction. If you have attraction, you have high levels of attraction, like where you're really attracted, you got some great intimacy, you always have a chance of getting back together. Always. Even if the other person's a jerk, a liar, whatever, there's always a chance because that's what bonded you as special. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. There's a lot of people out there going, oh yeah, well, that's not what it's all about. I'm not saying it's all what it's all about. I'm saying, though, that's the match that gets you back together. That's the thing. You're on a Friday night. It's been 3 weeks of no contact and you're going, oh my goodness, I would love some intimacy right now. Right? So how much do you believe that if you got back together, things will work out long term? It's a great question to ask. And you can answer this with, like, instead of a 5, a 3, like, I'm not really sure, neutral. But if you're at like 1 or 2 and you're really honest, you're like, yeah, because when you're with someone, you're like, they'll never change. You either got to accept that issue or problem that they have or not. And usually what people do when they get back together, they go, well, that problem's not so bad because my loneliness has gone to the head of the bus. Right? All right. So number 20, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you want your ex back just to validate your insecurities of them breaking up with you? It's about your ego more than them. So answer this in reverse, with 1 being absolutely true and 5 being not true at all. This is a great question to ask. Okay, so the reason I ask it, this comes up specifically and particularly more for men than women. Surprise, surprise. But there are women with the same thing. If someone broke up with you, sometimes you're just chasing the validation of overcoming that rejection. And that's human. That's nothing to say that you're a bad person or you need to get in touch with yourself or you need to be more down to earth. It's the reason I put this as a question. It's a consistent, regular problem that I come across again and again. And if you're aware of it, at least you know where you're coming from. You're not getting back together because you want to get married, have kids, build a life together. You're not getting married getting back together because it's going to be rose petals and wine glasses again. You're getting back together because you're like, I want to prove to myself, or I want to prove to them that I can get you back, that you're not going to reject me, that I'm better than you thought. I'm going to overturn this stone. And that's important to know. And in that particular case, it's really difficult because people like that, they tend to work harder, try more, which is unattractive in breakups in most cases, unless you really did something wrong. Someone's told you, I don't want to be with you. And they gave you their reasons and you're not listening because your ego is saying like, no. There's no way this could be true. All right. So we got 9 on deck. Anyone want to comment on that? I'm working towards putting this into an assessment with a scale and some results that come out. But these questions right here, and these are some of the questions that I've come up with after doing mostly breakups for 5 years. Not always. I coach for other things. And these are the key questions, I would say. And what it does is it takes you away from basking in loneliness, heartbreak, blame, guilt, resentment, because you're going to pick one of those flavors, right? You're going to pick one of those things to bask in. So like someone will have an ideal theme post breakup, like she never loved me. I wish I would have just done this better, right? And you just stay in that zone. But when you go through these questions, you broaden the perspective. Wow, it's way more than this. There's way more to this than just, I fucked up. Because that's a whole nother thing. I've told people many times, like, oh, I fucked up. It's like the ultimate holy grail of a breakup is to get to that point where it's not a fuck up. We broke up. No matter if in the moment you did do something wrong, because the greatest lessons are fuck ups. It's like, that's consequences make you better. So you would have been doing the same thing over and over again if you didn't break up. It's always going to work out later on. And when you look at it 3-4 years later, where you want to be is, yeah, my breakup, my ex. You don't want to be like, oh, I messed up 5-6 years later. Oh, I really messed up on that one. If you go through these questions I just had, that'll redirect the ship towards that. Not, oh, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, oh, I did this wrong, right? You just want to redirect the ship. Because if you're going nowhere, or you're going towards resentment island or guilt net island, let's redirect the ship towards, all right, let me build a case that this breakup actually had to happen. I'm going to learn from it. I can meet someone equal or higher value. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but I at least got that belief or that goal to get there. And I know how it feels. Like I've told people before, I understand when I'm sitting here being objective, honest, holding space, being a rock for someone while they're talking. I get it. My feelings aren't involved, but I've been in the other side of that. That's why I can do what I do. I've had one before where I was like, what's wrong? Why can't I get this out of my mind? I got a mouse on a wheel in my head about a thought, about something I said post breakup. Now I can't stop thinking, oh, if I would have said that different, if I would have just done this different, we would have been all good. We would, but what you don't realize is that question I just asked, do you really believe you'd be together long term? And if you, like, when you ask these questions, make sure you're in a calm state to be honest with yourself. Because a lot of times when I look back, I'm like, that relationship in my late 20s, we're together 4 years. I always had this feeling in the back of my head. She was great girlfriend, highly attracted to her, great chemistry. We trusted each other until we didn't, till the very end. People surprise you, people change. That's just how it is. And people change and surprise you more in their 20s. And that's okay. That being said, if I look back, deep down in my heart of hearts, my intuition, my soul, I didn't think we were long term. That's, if I'm being honest with myself. But I also didn't know, like, when we broke up, how much it would fucking hurt. How much it would just feel like looking for water in the desert, right? It is tough. I get it. These kind of questions put you in a different direction where you can start making sense of, all right, there's some other parts to this that I'm not looking at. Because the hardest thing to do, and the best thing a coach or therapist can do for you, is release that clogged sink. You're locked in on a perspective. And this is what annoys the hell out of negative people when they meet positive people. It's like everything you say is negative, and then everything they say is like a positive counter. And you're like, what is this? What is this? Whatever's happened to you in your life, you got fired from your job, and the boss was totally wrong, and whatever, there was nepotism involved, whatever. There's all kinds of things. At the end of the day, you could take a different perspective from that. It's what Disney movies do, right? It's what you can take a different perspective. You have to open up those new perspectives, those new lanes, by unclogging the sink. And what I mean by unclogging the sink is, like, when you're rigid and you're stuck on something, you're just seeing it with a microscope. When really, if you look at the other options, and that's the good thing about talking about these things. I regularly talk to people for 2 hours about their breakup. We're opening up new pathways to look at things. We're seeing things at a broader picture. We're seeing new possibilities, new opportunities to make sense of it, and not just be positive, but also be like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Now we redirected the ship to a new direction, just a little bit, because the course you were going, because you talked to your friend that, I don't know, has been divorced 3 times and, hates women, but still dates and all that stuff. But it's my best friend from childhood. That's not the person to redirect the ship in the right direction. They're going to redirect the ship for you to be more like them. That's why you got to be really cognizant of where you're getting your advice. Because what you don't realize is that everyone puts authority in different people. And authority figures are as powerful as hypnotism, as being hypnotized. If you think someone's a high enough authority figure, like, oh, this is a doctor, so they know everything. Okay, it's possible. They know a lot more than I do about the human body or whatever their specialty is. Right? And so that's why you put that authority in them. You go to the doctor, you're like, hey man, I've been sick. I don't know what this is. I've got this cold, but the fever's long. And what they tell you, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you sit there and go, hey, I think you're wrong? You might get a second opinion if you're smart, right? If it's a serious thing, but you have that built in, like, this person has my best interest. They have a professional level. They're going to tell me what's wrong or right. You don't realize sometimes with your friends and colleagues when it comes to breakup stuff, because you don't really have a breakup specialist, and maybe you're like, oh, I would never go to one of those coaches online. Oh, that's stupid. It's like, so you go to your friend instead at work and you make them an authority figure on breakups just because you're vulnerable and you don't want to talk to too many people about it. Not a good move. They're just going to tell you what they would do or what's happening in their life. They don't have a vast amount of experience on it. Hopefully it's good advice, but if you put a lot of weight in that, get a second opinion. Talk to it. And I've had it before where I've had clients just recently. All my friends said the same thing. Cool. Friends giving good advice, right? All my friends said the same thing. Good. At least you can reassure yourself on another level with someone that specializes in a field that has some experience. A lot of it is just people being, embarrassed. Breakups are not something that's easy to share public. You know what I mean? You're not going to look good in the situation. What's up, Clutch? You can activate neurons to spark connections. That's in essence what healing is. Redirecting the ship. Yep. So that's also another thing. We can say the same thing in different ways with better metaphors. And if the metaphor clicks or the story or the anecdotal story clicks, I've had clients, I drop an anecdotal story from my life that just fits and it cements the advice or redirecting to that area because we have rapport, we have trust, right? I am. What a great name. I am. Petty Betty, how you doing? Always a pleasure. Anyone in the comments, what's the best thing to do when you miss your ex? Anyone else have something besides answering 20 questions on a scale of 1 to 5? I would say this, if I was going to simplify all this, hard workouts. Wow, that was back to back. What's up, BW? Workout, hard workouts. Yeah. Seems obvious, right? To the people that work out. Yep. Well, that's funny because that bad breakup I had, I just started running. I never liked running, never liked jogging. When I say running, jogging, going for runs or jogs, I would go on these like 2 or 3 hour solo jogs around the bay, San Mateo Bridge. And man, it was a release. Yeah, it was a release. Because I would, the funny thing about that is it's like you think like that's the obvious advice, and some people just put their hand up. Like, you can tell when you give that advice, probably because Kyle from Masculine Energy is thinking this, or Clutch, because some people, like, they haven't exercised in like 5 years, right? So you tell them that, and they're like, yeah, I should start. Yeah, I'll do that. And you could just tell right away, it's like, no. And that's the hard thing. If you don't exercise, and when I say exercise, I'm not telling you to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? I'm not telling you to be Rocky or anything like that. I'm just telling you to go for a walk after work or something, okay? It's just that much harder. But the thing is, post breakup, that's what's going to get you out of your head. Is correct for a moment. Right? Because you got all that good feeling. You go take a shower. You're like, oh, I feel good. And then 2 or 3 hours later, it comes back in, but it's just not as harsh. Go hunting and fishing. Sure, if that's a great hobby because you're outside. If you can incorporate, that was one of the things. I've always been someone that exercised, played basketball, lift weights on and off. I wouldn't say I do that all the time, but always active. But when I started going on the jogs, what I liked about it was outside. You get sun, you get nature, you get clean air. I think there's something to that. It's so funny because Dave Asprey, who has, the biohack guy, forgot what it was. It was on Instagram a few days back. And he's like, oh, the top biohacks, right? They seem obvious. Forgot what it was. I should pull that up. They seem so obvious. But a lot of people don't do them. And one of them was, getting out in nature. Let's see here. Okay, most effective free biohacks. What do you think it's going to be? 6 most effective free biohacks. Number 1, donate blood. Okay. I think that's probably feel good about that. I don't know what the pluses on your system are to that, but it's probably the ultimate charitable act to give your blood. And I'm O negative, so I can give to everyone, but I can only get O negative. So a friend of mine's always emailing me or texting me, hey man, you need to donate more blood. Number 2, practice intermittent fasting. Number 3, walk for 20 minutes a day. Number 4, lift twice a week. Number 5, and I agree with this one and I do it. I've been doing it for probably a year and a half. Tape your mouth when you sleep. There's so much to that. You should be breathing through your nose at all times. The book, Breathe by James Nestor. Read that book. It's not a boring book. But taping your mouth, if you're a mouth breather, which most people are, it's one of the reasons why I think my teeth are all messed up after having braces for 4 years when I was a teenager. It also, you don't get dry mouth. You don't get as lightheaded in the morning. So look into that. Tape your mouth when you sleep. That is a good one. Number 6, 6 most effective free biohacks. Go outside. So do your walk outside. Love the long drive. I used to do that too. You got to get out of your house. Yeah. I remember when I had that one, I would just go for long drives. I know gas is more expensive. I would say hikes, do those things, but you definitely got to get outside. My last breakup, if I didn't work out, I would be depressed for the day. It was an easy fix, short term. Other things, reading, building Legos, long drives is a big one for me too. Nice one. Nice one. I think the most important thing, so this is an interesting way to look at it. I don't know if anyone, or I'm sure some of you know bilateral stimulation. I can be taken in a lot of different ways by the group on this. Bilateral stimulation is a form of therapy, EMDR, right? And while you're doing your therapy, you're going like this, and you're using both sides of your brain. We also have bilateral stimulation beats for study music and things like that. You know, where it's bump, 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 bump. Okay. If you tape your mouth, make sure you don't have a deviated septum or sleep apnea. Thanks for that disclosure. I agree. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving doctor advice, but yeah, okay. If anyone gets bad breath, which hasn't been a big problem in my life, but I know, everyone's got a friend where, it's halitosis, dragon. dragon breath, they probably need to tape their mouth when they go to sleep. It would make a big difference. They're taking in a lot of fumes, man. So getting back to the point, I think exercise is a big one. Like people feel like that's obvious, but there's a lot of people that have a roadblock. Oh, I work too much. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, I don't do this. You got to find a way. But you're still going to have pain outside the, outside the workouts. What I'm doing with these groups of questions is trying to get you that mental part to make sense, to open up your mind away from the dungeon that you're in, where you just are looking at this thing in one way. And one of the biggest ones would be where you messed up, right? Or they don't care about me. That's a microscopic part of the relationship that you're just owning in on, right? You like that one, huh? So what I was saying about bilateral stimulation, what is walking? That's what it is. It's so funny because you can do all these videos, you can do all these things, but walking's bilateral stimulation. They have I forgot what it's called. And you literally, it's like two little tubes when I was doing my hypnotherapy training years back. And you attach them to your legs, your feet, wherever, and it just goes bump, bump, bump on each side. It's bilateral stimulation. It's what it does is it gets you into a different state, a little different wavelength. And like I said, what's walking? It's bilateral stimulation. So just looking at these questions, I had a few that I earmarked. In the 90s, they had a song for the Super Mario show. The song literally describes walking. Okay. So I would say, in my estimations, the ones that I earmarked as questions that were really important, the drug and alcohol addiction one is huge. It's huge. And I think I've had plenty of clients that you would think everyone would be aware of that when they're in a relationship or not put that to the side. But many, we're going into it. We're talking about it. We're going deeper and deeper, and they're just oblivious. Like, the alcohol thing is a problem. Yeah. But and then this happened, and then we're like, so we got out of the bar, and then that's when we got in the argument, and that's when I broke up with them. And I'm like, all right, so most of you do realize that most of your problems have been when you've been drinking, right? Yeah, that's true, huh? It's like, all right, like, I'm not, and this is where it gets the spectrum of what's an alcoholic or what's a drug addict. I'm with you. I'm not here to diagnose that. I'm just saying, some people, I've had clients that have talked to me 7-8 times and they're still talking about other things, and they're still not addressing, like, that's the heart of the problem. The behavior. If you have someone that, everyone's got a dark side. Everyone does. Me too. Everyone does. But if someone's got a dark side that, it doesn't come out a whole lot, but it's dark, it's going to get amplified by alcohol and drugs. And that's the problem. It just got 5 times worse. And for some reason, people will put that to the sidelines. Well, this happened. It's like, if that's one of the problems, and let's just say you don't say it's addiction. Let's say you say it's like, a functional alcoholic where they go to work and they get shit done. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And so that's one of those ones that if you think like, oh yeah, it's kind of bad, it's kind of an issue. But when you take assessments, when you're talking to your coach or your therapist, and you're like, you keep going to like, oh shit, every time we fight, actually, yeah, it's actually when we've been drinking or they've been drinking. So if you're just taking regular monogamous relationship problems, which is, sometimes people, it's like, these are real problems in relationships. I've had clients before, they're in the relationship. I've got coaching going on right now with a couple clients. They're in relationships, but they're working through like, oh, this really bothers me. I'm like, these are problems you're going to have in a relationship. These aren't grounds to break up. Alcohol and drugs, it usually gets worse. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. If someone's addicted or they use it for their pain, right? So that's one of those ones. If you're answering that's the high level to that, and the hardest part is you don't want to turn your back on someone you care about. I get it. Father was a bad alcoholic for years and relapsed later on. I'm experienced with it in my family. I get it, but don't discount that as just another problem. And you don't have that problem. When you get out of that relationship, if you don't have any other ties with kids or anything like that, it's going to be tough love. Not for them, for you. The other one I want to earmark is, how much does the ex value always being right? This is actually really important, because people like this exhaust you. They feast on people that are agreeable and kind and nice. And it ends up being a really lopsided relationship. It'll get worse. This is another one. It'll get worse, because if they know that they can always beat you in an argument, they'll beat you. And so it's not one to just be like, yeah, that's kind of true. They always need to be right, and I always can just sit in the corner. And this doesn't mean that you need to be right, but like you're gonna have debates, you're gonna have things. You don't always have to agree, but you need to be fucking heard. You know what I'm talking about. You friends, family, colleagues, whatever you had. Always remember something. Friends, family, and colleagues, you have a choice when you're an adult. When you're a kid, you don't have choices on your parents, your brothers, and your sisters. You got to deal with that shit. Now, when you're older, it's like, oh shit, I got a choice. You're with someone that always is right. That's tough. Because people like that, they're usually wrong half the time, because they don't take they've done a bunch of research, they've done this. You need to know. Right? So, and if you keep trying to like, oh, you always need to be right. People like that, it's usually a character thing. And they don't even know they're doing. They don't even know they're doing it. The other one. So don't overlook that one. Because you literally, every time you argue, you need to fall on the sword and be the bigger person. It can be an exhausting thing. How much anger do you have how much anger do they have towards you? And this could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because you cheated. It could be because you owe them money. It could be, I don't know. But if they have post breakup, they have anger towards you, and a lot, just back off. Let the smoke clear. You're not going to explain someone out of that. And you aren't trained or a specialist in this, so you're going to probably make their anger worse. Because what you're going to do is like, oh, why are you so angry? Or like, why are you like, that's not going to make it better. They're dug in. They found a reason to really be upset with you. You need to back the hell off. And if they have anger issues, you're not going to be the one to talk them out of that. How much resentment and hurt are they holding against you for cheating or emotional cheating in the past? So this is very specific, because some people are going to say, well, I never cheated. Great. You can skip this question, and that's a positive on you maybe getting back together and assessing your breakup. If there's been cheating or emotional cheating done, which I would say over 50% of relationships in 2023, yes. I don't have any documentation on that. That's a hypothesis, but I'll just throw that out there, including emotional cheating, which means texting and flirting online or whatever. Okay. Probably way more than 50%. Now, every couple handles that differently. When you break up, if it's been a problem for the last 2 years, I had a client, cool dude, had his shit together, had everything. He had been with his girlfriend for like 5 years or something. he had what would maybe be called emotional cheating, because emotional cheating is one of those things without penetration. There's not, it's led for interpretation. There's a spectrum, right? And someone can fit that or not fit that based on whatever your own criteria is. Where like you slept with someone, right? The threshold's been broken. Okay, it's clear. Emotional cheating is like, all right. So this guy this is a great example, because this is like, some people would be like, well, I don't know if that's emotional cheating. He goes 5 years together, and his ex, and this would be qualified as one of those guys, a really nice guy, highly agreeable, really mellow, really relaxed. And these kind of guys usually end up with edgy, bossy women. Not always, but a lot of times. You know what I'm talking about too, because you've had friends like this where you're like, wow, she runs the show. She's correcting him when he's at a dinner table, right? And so what happened was his ex was in another country, far away. She lived there. And she had mental issues when they broke up. When I say that, like depression kind of thing. And I think she had a couple suicidal moments. I know that sounds 0 to 100 on the drum whenever you mention that word, right? So she goes, so she had a couple, she had mental issues, those kinds of things. He got out of that relationship. They were done. They're in different countries. They hadn't talked for 2 years. She texts or emails him, how have you been? And she starts back up with like she's been depressed, she's been sad. So he looks at it like, I'm just going to be a friend. He's in this new relationship, and that, he's there for her long distance or whatever. And he didn't talk to her, every day. And there was nothing intimate about it. Cut a long story short, his current girlfriend of 2 years finds out, goes ballistic. It's like, oh, I know you've been cheating. He shows her the emails. He's like, look, I've just been talking to her because I feel bad for her. She's got these mental issues. She's got depression. I'm worried about her. That's why I did it. Right. Next part of it, he's like, if it really bothers you, I'll cut it off. He cut it off, never talked to her again. He's like, we've been together 5 years. He goes, every time we fight or argue, which she usually starts, she drops that card. And he goes, I don't know what to say. She drops that card every time, because it's just like, all right. And then it goes into, I know you cheated. I know you were talking to her. I know, like, just brings it up every time. Back pocket. Bam. If you're in a relationship where that gets brought up every time, it's just never going away. Once you break up, just get out. Because there are people out there, believe it or not, in cheating situations that can forgive. That can move forward. They can. It's a choice. It's not for anyone else to decide but you too. But if someone's saving it for convenient moments in arguments as a joker card, bam. What about that? And you're like, where did this come? You're bringing this up again from 3 years ago, and it's emotional cheating. It's not even, I've never talked to them and you got to explain yourself. Now they're right. Now they win. Now they've taken you in a new direction. Those are exhausting. If that's one of those situations where whatever you did in the past, whether it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or 2 months ago, and it just keeps being brought up, some people can't let that go. It's extremely traumatic for them. Just break up. Just because it's not going away. And it's not, look, couples are meant to have some fights and arguments. When I say fights, I mean verbal disagreements, right? Like you're allowed to do that. Bringing up things that have already been resolved, let go, forgiven, is not healthy. It's not fair. And if someone's like that, it's just never ending. And a lot of times I would add to that, the people that are most obsessed with the other person cheating, a lot of times they've done it themselves or they're actively cheating themselves. What I see in you, I see in me. Never forget that. All right. On the bottom part, the last one I would say is the most significant question. How much do you want your ex back just to validate your insecurities of them breaking up with you? It's about your ego more than them. I've had men tell me this multiple times. and they'll start laughing, or they'll be like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, bud, because I'll ask sometimes as we get into it. I'll be like, well, what's the ideal situation if everything worked out? Like, what do you really want? And a lot of times people are like, wow, that's a really good question, I didn't think about that. And then they'll be like, actually, I just wanted to come back on my doorstep and me have the ability to say yes or no, go home, I don't want you anymore. Like, they'll be like, that's, or I just want to sleep with them again. It's not every guy, but there's a lot of guys. There's some women like this. If this is the case, it's good that you know that, because a lot of times they don't know it till I ask the question. And then when they know it, they're like, oh shit, that's twisted. What I say is like, all right, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you're looking for, careful what you wish for. But now you're aware of it and you're like, is that what I really want? Because that's one of those things. It's especially like that the first month or 2 months, especially if you got really rejected. If you got really rejected, and you went from being someone in the relationship that the woman really loved and respected and put on a pedestal to someone that, you know, there's no pedestal there anymore. There's no love there anymore. It's hard. And you want to get that back. But being aware of that one, it's big. I'd say the other one would be, how much do you believe that if you got back together, things would work out long term? Because what are you doing? If you're getting back together just to get back together and you don't think it's going to work long term, you know deep down in your heart of hearts, your soul, that you're like, I don't know if it's going to work long term. I don't know. Just had that happen recently. But client was asking me a bunch of questions, this, that. I said, honestly, I don't like, if you guys, and he's in a relationship, I said, I don't see you guys being together forever. And he's like, what? I said, well, you're 24 years old, man. You know, like, you guys are already having problems. You have you got jealousy issues. You got all these things. So, and I felt bad because the guy almost started crying. Right? I said, look, you asked me to tell you the truth. I would say that to most people in their early 20s that aren't tied to maybe a religion or a high level of values of being married. If you're not tied to those things strongly that cement you being committed long term, or you're not a commitment person, let's take that to another level. Look at your other parts of your life. Are you committed in other ways to other parts of your life? Like your job, your career? So like, if you're in a job or a career that you're not committed to, that you don't really like, and you're just kind of bouncing through, then you're probably not going to be committed to your relationship. How you do one thing is how you do everything. It's not absolutely true, but it's very true. So those things contribute. What's up, Percy Blue? The infamous Memphis finest. All right, anyone on deck? We got 16 on deck. Got a spirited crowd here. Anyone have any questions or situationships about their relationship that you want to go into? Go ahead and drop it in the live stream. I'll answer those directly. If someone want to come on live right now, I could send you an invite and you can unpack your breakup situation right now. And we could do that audio only if you don't want to be someone that's showing their face. Oh, I hate myself on camera. I wouldn't want anyone to know. Okay. Doing these live streams for a while now. Every once in a while, someone comes on, and then the next day I get an email. My email's like chalked up with someone's name and please respond. And it's like, what is this? It's like, can you please take down the video? It's like, I told you in the live stream, you can come on, you're invited. It's like, please. I've had that too with when I did more breakup stories. Someone would send me in a breakup story and I would air a video about it. I've had guys like 10 emails like, please take it down. Please. I'll give you more money. I'm like, I don't want more money. I'll take it down for you. Don't worry about it. It's not my style. That's not my intention. So now I tell people, it's like, you want to come on? Just go audio only. It'd be cool, huh, if I had the, what do they have for those documentaries when they talk to the bad guys and they blur out their face? I bet you can do that on StreamYard in some way. I get it. Some of this stuff's, you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to talk about it. I get it. Totally get it. I don't think, when I was going through my bad breakup, I don't think I would go on a video on YouTube and let everyone see. We keep it moving. This is actually the longest I've been out of a relationship since I was 20. I've been single since May, one failed situationship, but let me tell you something, because we got some vets on the set here, okay? And I think they would all be in agreement. You're 20. Let your hair out, bud. Right? Like, be single and enjoy it. Spend some time with your buds. Go have some fun. Don't put any pressure on yourself. You might start enjoying it. 20 is a great age. Oh, since I was 20, excuse me. I'm sorry, Percy. What are you, 23, 24 now? Sometimes just being in that holding pattern where you're not really, you don't have something. It's okay. 27 is single. Great age to be single. Wow, yeah. It's really been good working with some guys in their 20s just to give perspective and not saying like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. Just being like, you're right where you need to be. You're okay, man. And it's all right to be single. I think there's a lot of pressure out there right now with Instagram and YouTube where you see all these ultra famous people making millions of dollars, not doing very hard work, being an influencer and showing their cars and shit, that you somehow feel behind. Or you feel like I should be doing so much more. And if you live in an environment like, New York City or LA or some of these environments can push that agenda too, because you see so many quote unquote successful people doing it, making all this money ahead of the game. And you're like, I'm so behind. No, you're not. And actually, if you really knew the guts of that person's life, it ain't as good as you think. Everyone, and I've learned this from doing what I do, everyone's got some hidden problems, man. Everyone's got some skeletons. Everyone's got a dark side. And the only way you deal with it at the best you can is day to day. Keep showing up. Keep dealing with it. I mean, I date around, but not looking for something serious. I'm planning on moving to Nashville next year, so I'm doing my best to just save. Good for you. And you got a finish line? Nice. It's always nice when you get a nice finish line, nice goal set, a goal that you really get excited about. So, Nashville, Tennessee. It was funny because I think, Percy, you don't mind. I think you live in Memphis now, right? And I just saw this interview on Steve Adams, who plays for the Memphis Grizzlies, the NBA team. And he's from New Zealand, so he has a little bit of an accent. And he's like, this guy's like, excuse me, sir, I just want to ask you a few questions about yesterday's game. And Steve Adams is like, bro, where are you from? I've never heard that accent. And the guy goes, I'm actually from Memphis. So it's the home team accent, right? And he's like, wow, that's a cool accent, man. Really nice. It is funny just to go back to your comment, Kyle. Man, when you're in your 20s too, yeah, you just take things way too serious. It's so true. It's one of the better parts of getting older is you don't give a fuck as much. I don't need to read the settle art and not giving a fuck. You get to 40 plus, you're like, yeah, you just don't care about people's opinion as much. When I say that, you can get riled up, you can get upset, you can take it, but you don't carry it. There's a big difference, right? It's okay when someone offends you. I think last week, I think you were on here, Kyle, and I went through a comment someone made on the YouTube. And it was like, I went in detail about it, but I don't carry that the next day or even the next hour. It's a topic to talk about on the show. And it was something interesting. It's kind of funny to me in some ways, but I didn't take it like personal. You start getting to a point in your life where you don't take things personal, man. You just don't take it personal. When you dissect it and you go into it, you're going into it, you're like, listen to this, right? But then it's done. It's fine. It's not like, oh my God, I can't believe this person said this or this about me. That particular situation I thought was kind of funny because the guy, when he was saying like, you know, it's being on your purpose. It's running the top nightclub in Europe when you're 22 years old and working 80 hours a week. It's like, okay, who's going to judge that you were at the top nightclub in Europe? That's a pretty lofty statement in the comments without the name of the club. Working 80 hours, that's being on your purpose. Good for you. Take a medal. Right? I'm happy for you. You want to know how great I am? Yeah, tell me. You know what I do when people go on tangents like that? I go just go like this. I believe you. I believe you. And they go kind of like, okay. Yeah. I ran the greatest night. I was part of the top nightclub in Europe for 15 years, 20 years ago. What makes it the top nightclub? No, instead you go, I believe you. I believe you. It's like a kid talking, right? Kid, oh, I did this time. I believe you, bud. It's all right, man. It's all right. You got me. You don't have to go on. It's all right. You're a superstar, man. And what's funny is like people think their road to greatness or impressing others applies to every group. And it's funny because it's like whatever you think was a great accomplishment or you've gotten credit for, there's going to be someone out there that goes, yeah, I'm not impressed. That lines it up for you, Kyle, huh? Wife, kid, money. That's it. That's the scorecard, huh? Did you have your son, bud? Congratulations if that's... The funny thing about that, Kyle, is like when you do that, there's not really a negative way to respond to it, right? And I'm being partially true because I'm like, I'm not going to spend time researching it like, oh yeah, man, so you're at this top, you did a top club. What was the name of the club? Wow, congratulations, bud. You had a boy? Oh, wow. Did you put masculine in his name? Did you give him a masculine name? What would be the most masculine name? You can give him a masculine name, Kyle. Your masculine energy. Come on, man. We can't go with that one. Is that really what his name was? That's the name I was thinking in my head. A friend of mine has named his kid Henry, and they call him Hank. Because I asked my buddy, I was like, I go, do you call him Hank? He goes, call him Hank all day. Little Henry, King Henry. Cool, man. Nice. That is a masculine name too, right? Henry. Sir Henry. Nice. And reference to Freemasons, possibly? That's going back to just to segue back. What's really interesting about that, right? Is like when I say something like that in reference to the Freemasons or something like that. Oh, I know why you named him that. These are the type of people when I was saying like people that always need to be right. But if you're in a relationship with someone that's always like, well, I know why you did that. I know why you think that. It's like, you're not Nostradamus, you know? Cool, man. That's good. Congratulations. I'm happy for you, bro. Sky's the limit. The great Biggie said. Now, there was a few more questions, if you guys are just curious, that I didn't add to the whole 1 through 20. A few of the other questions. In your estimation, or if you had to guess, how bad does your partner want you back? I don't know. Just guess. How bad do you want your partner back? I will, Kyle, for sure. I will. I gotta talk to you about a couple things for sure. It's funny you came on today. It's serendipity. What characteristic does your partner hold at their highest level? Have you broken up before and got back together? 1 time before, 2 times before? That makes a difference. If you guys are serial breakup artists, just stay broken up, because it's just going to keep happening. How much % do you believe the breakup was your fault? Do you believe the problems in the relationship that led to the breakup can be fixed in the future? Yeah, those are the other things I had as the rough draft of this. All right. We've got 12 on deck. Any closing questions? We had a spirited crowd here today. I'll give you guys a few minutes here. Good to be back on deck. No? $27, man. What a great age. I remember 27. That's right when I had my bad breakup. 28, excuse me. You're on the brink of Saturn's return, Percy. Go look it up. Saturn's return. I'm not deep into astrology or anything like that, but Saturn's return is something interesting to look at when you're 28, 29. It's really interesting. Because I remember when I was 28, I was going through a bunch of stuff. Just with the breakup, with my job, with moving. And I had like 5, 6 people. I'm hearing Saturn's return. I'm like, what's Saturn's return? The hell's that? One of the other questions that I put in here, just to close this out, that's a bit of a conflict for a lot of people when they want someone back or they miss them, is do you believe they really want you back? Even though you don't know? If you think that absolutely they don't, for whatever reason it is, you got to stay in no contact. Because if you're around them, you're going to overcompensate. You're going to try really hard to spin that table and shift it. And usually it's unattractive. Wow, we got a lot of silent people on here today. Anyone want to come on deck and unpack some stuff? Give a few minutes. That's it. Otherwise, we're going to be out ski. Thanks, Justin Brown. JB, where are you at in the world, Justin? Did you say you lived in Chicago? I'm just curious. I know brand new Skinner, who comes on quite a bit, lives in Chicago. Good to see you on deck, Clutch. We'll have to set up a Zoom call and talk, man. It's been a while. Houston. All right. You know what I just watched that was a really good movie? was or just a good story was the George Foreman story on Netflix. It's like his biography. I think I'm going to do another year where I just don't watch Netflix. Take a break from it and have it fresh again. But what a great story George Foreman had. And he has a youth center there. It's pretty cool, man. I actually have family that lives outside of Houston that just moved there. They said they really like it. And I just remembered right now, you've told me this before. I just remembered right now because I was telling you how hot it is over there, right? Texas is hot. Home of the great Rockets. I was always a Elijah Wan fan. All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. It's been a great live stream today. I hope these questions helped you out in some way. Odd Carlo Green, lottery is open. I hope I'm one of the winners for DV Lottery 20 last year. 4 Norwegians won. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. I'll pray for you, my friend. Throw me out a few dollars if you get in there. Green Lottery is open. I hope one of the winners for DV Lottery. Good for you, man. How much is the money in Norway? Like, what do you win? $10 million, 20? Oh, because it would probably be krones, right? Isn't it krones for the? It's pretty surprising. I would know that. I actually have Norwegian friends here in Phuket that are from Norway. Norwegian friends. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate you. Has anyone ever thought, like, if they did win the lottery, what they would do? Oh, I would buy a car. I'd buy a house. I would do this. I would do that. No one. I rarely hear people go, I would invest the money in annuities and rental property. It's always like something splashy. Probably one of the best things you could do if you won the lottery is don't tell anyone. You'll get a lot of really close family members and friends really quick. Like, hey, how have you been, Mac? Man, we haven't talked in a while. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, the Niners. Oh, yeah, this and that. It's like, hey, man, you think you can loan me a little bit of money? Because people that are lottery winners are always like, more money, more problems, like the great Mace said. Like they say it's like, it's hard. It's hard. That'd probably be one of the number one things. Don't tell anyone. Doesn't mean you can't be generous with your friends and family and things like that, but all right, folks, take care. It's been good. It's been grand. Go to rightmac.com if you want to book a live coaching session or if you want to send in your story. Otherwise, it's curtains. Have a good day.